and welcome back to On Location. Today I'm on location at Davey State Nature Preserve. It is an Ohio State Nature Preserve that is not too terribly big, but does contain some really old growth and mature forest woodland here. It has two separate trails here. It has the Conrad Trail at 1.4 miles and the short loop at 0.6 miles. So not too terribly big. I just grabbed a brochure that has all different kinds of Ohio State Nature Preserves here. It has an entire map, different things like different natural features or even activities you may do like hiking and bird watching in such of these Ohio preserves here. And I also brought along my tree field guide just because I knew this place would be good for arboreal activities, of course, and trees and all that kind of stuff. It's very, very quiet. I'm the only one here right now, fortunately. So I got the whole place to myself, and I'm just sharing it with the local wildlife, of course. So, you know, I'm going to depart from the trailhead here, and we'll get started for our little day hike here. And hopefully we see some cool stuff to take some photos of course. So let's go ahead and get started. So a big aspect of my photographic work is to always kind of meld the science of nature with the art of photography. And that's a really big balancing act. And it's one that I like to juggle, honestly, because I think it's really fun to just see how you can combine something that's very science and fact-based with something that's very, I don't even know what you call it, like just very creative in that sense. And that's a big part of my work. And it's just trying to think of how do I, accentuate and do I show these subjects, and in particular these trees, which is probably going to be what I'm going to end up with shooting today. And how do I show off their, characteristics and provide facts even, not even so much in the photograph itself sometimes, but also in the captions and stuff that accompanies it. And it's like, how do I make that all work along with making a photograph that's also tasteful and aesthetically pleasing? And so that's the real kind of tricky part of just doing the work I do. And so I merely don't want to take a documentation shot, of course, and sometimes I don't always want to take a photograph that's just merely aesthetic purposely only. But the important thing about these state nature preserves is that they do help conserve and preserve very sensitive habitats and house rare species, both plant and otherwise, and wildlife that we may have as state endangered in here in the state of Ohio. And so I feel like it's almost like my duty to kind of show that more conservation oriented side of what I do here. But at the very least, it's still a nice time to hike out here, even in the middle of winter when it is a little bit colder. And sometimes it's harder to get compositions, especially in winter, when there's no snow or anything around, which is such the case today. But come soon in spring, we'll definitely be getting some of the earliest ephemerals, which is some of my favorite subjects to photograph in general, and stuff like the bloodroot, snowdrops. I can imagine this woods. Now this is my first visit, mind you, but I can imagine we might get like rue anemone, cutleaf toothwort, and other such species as that. But for my first visit, obviously it's not gonna be the case today. But that's totally okay, because I'm really enjoying these hillside views way out here, and just really getting able to see way out in the distance of the landscape that you wouldn't otherwise see, for example, like in the middle of summer. So it's very, very cool to see all that. So I wanted to show you a little bit of that right now, and I'll shut up and keep going here and keep looking for compositions. So as it stands right now, I just heard a downy kind of do one little pip call that they do, where it's just kind of like a sharp little beep, like a whistle sound. Just heard it way up in one of these taller trees. I'm tempted to pull out the binoculars and actually kind of look through even the birds that aren't vocalizing, which, you know, it is winter, so like it's not really for most bird species, of course, time to be making calls and stuff, but you still may hear a few of them, whether it be for alert reasons or just, you know, signaling to other individuals in the area, of course, or otherwise. But so I'm on my way here on the Conrad Trail. I think I'm about over halfway done. I haven't been keep track of stats, but I'm imagining that's what it is now. But I wanted to mention, actually, and this is probably intentional by, I'm guessing, the Department of Natural Resources, is that they had these brush piles laid out here from all the just like trees that were cut down or fell down naturally. And this brush pile makes for really good habitat for lots of critters here, and so, or just provides shelter at the very least. And so that's really cool to see that kind of thing out here. And I'd recommend, even in your own backyard, even trying to do something like that to kind of help wildlife in any way you can. Okay, so if it looks familiar right here in this particular spot, we're back at the trailhead. Down there is just the flat path that takes you to the gravel parking lot. And so I did my about a mile and a half. So I did my mile and a half or so Conrad Trail loop here. And I think that really helped. It helped me kind of fully engross myself into the entire landscape and the entire preserve here, and really just kind of see what it has to offer. I mean, have photographs not really be on, pretty much sideline them for now. And so now that I'm finally back at the start here, I'm going to go, you know, switch into basically photo mode. All right, so I'm falling for one of the most cliche photography compositions. This one just screams that I have nothing original to say, but I'm doing it anyways because I'm a sucker for it. So, and I haven't done one in a couple of years. Last time I did in the pine forest at Glen Helen, I think. But yeah, anyway, so yeah, the sky's really clearing up, as you can see way overhead. It's getting really nice and blue, and I wouldn't take this shot otherwise if it was just a blank gray overcast sky, but it's looking really nice. So I'm at about 24 millimeters here. I'm varying my shutter speed. Not that it really matters, but I'm just using that to bracket a couple times just to get the sky detail, which is the highlights, and then obviously the shadows, which is the tree trunk, because the camera is automatically exposing for and metering for, obviously trying to get that sky not to be blown out, and we don't want that, of course. But there's varying color in there, so there's some blue, of course, of the sky, and then there's also some clouds and patches of it kind of surrounding the entire composition here. But it's literally just kind of centered up, as you can see, stabilized on a tripod, shooting all the way up, and basically the most cliche composition you can think of, but it works. So that's why I'm kind of doing it. So, and this is a nice, beautiful, I think it's an oak tree, if I am correct, but it looks like one of the oldest trees here in Davey Woods, and at least from what I've seen and what I've gathered from doing my first hike around. And so anyways, yep, I took the shot. Doing about f8, I feel like is nice enough. Obviously it's kind of tricky with the depth of field, of course, since I am pointing straight up, sort of at an angle, and obviously the amount of depth and dynamic range with this kind of scene, with just the highlight and shadow detail and all that kind of stuff going on there. So it works. It's okay. You know, I can not guilt myself any further for it. And it's honestly kind of fun to take these kind of shots every now and then. So, but hopefully I'll take something a little more original, and I'll keep going and hiking along here and find something with about an hour of daylight. And it looks like the sunlight is kind of pulling through. It's kind of hitting certain trees, like this one way out here. I'm not even sure if you can see it from here, but yeah, good icebreaker for the day, you know, for the evening here. It's nice to kind of finally just feel like that weight and that burden is off your shoulders, of course, with taking that first image there and that first comp. So now I feel a little bit better, and now I can kind of just freely express myself creatively and hopefully get some other shots. So we'll keep going here and see those other compositions. This one I didn't originally see when I went by, but you know, I'm glad I kind of took a second look at it now. But I'm going to try to nail at least, I think there's about 2 or 3 other tree shots along the 1.5 mile loop that kind of stuck out to me, I guess, in some way. And so I'm going to try and get those next. I heard a loud woodpecker drumming up here, and I couldn't quite see it with my binoculars or my eyes, unfortunately, but it sounded like it was quite loud, like it could have been a pileated woodpecker, which is neat. But I don't think I'm going to get any birds today, unfortunately, but I've had about 5 or 6 species, I think, total. And I'd say about half of those are woodpeckers, so go figure. But all right, I'm gonna keep going here. There's probably 1 or 2 more compositions I'm gonna do here, and then that'll probably be it for the day in this visit here to Davey Woods. But I really have been enjoying it, and I think it's been great, and I hope you feel the same. So anyways, I got this tree trunk here. It's clearly dead and rotted away. Looks like it fell down about halfway. But it has some moss lining it, and it has all these jagged edges where the tree bark has been basically either looks like stripped away or just weathered away from being out in the elements, of course. And I'm really zooming in, doing something that's more of a mid-telephoto range, doing something that's more in the 150mm range that I feel like really helps kind of emphasize and pick apart those details there. And just basically lining up with a vertical composition, which seems to be the name of the game today with my photos. But I think it works out pretty well. About ISO 800, which obviously affects the sensitivity to the light here, but the light's ever so fleeting. It looks like it's already, as you can see probably behind me, it's disappearing off the horizon. So unfortunately that's just kind of the case with that. And about 30th of a second in f8, and yeah, I think it worked out pretty well. Depth of field with this particular image compared to the other ones are much more expansive and kind of sprawling with the giant trees in the foreground and midground and background and all that kind of stuff. But this one, by comparison, or by contrast rather, is just much more flat, and obviously it's much more encompassing on that same kind of distance, I guess, away from the camera. And so, basically it's a lot easier to neglect, I guess, the aperture, but I'm still shooting at f8, which I feel like just kind of helps with it, and it keeps all the depth of field in there anyways, so that way it doesn't blur at the edges of the frame, because I do want to kind of keep everything looking pretty tack sharp throughout this image. So I think that may be it. I'm going to keep hiking here. I still have about 1/2 mile or more, 3/4 of a mile, something like that, and I have enough time to get back to the car before it gets truly dark and after sunset. But alrighty everyone, I made it back to the trailhead. That actually went a lot better than I thought. That's probably one of the most exciting shoots I've had in a long time, at least in recent memory. Pretty nice sunset evening shoot. Just got some cool compositions, even stuff lining up with the sun, getting a sunburst too. Now it's kind of creeped far below the horizon, and it's too hard to see, even from the highest elevation points here at Davey Woods. So I think I'm done, even though there's quite a bit of daylight left. I don't really see anything else I am really compelled to photograph, but I mean, hey, that was a pretty good shoot, and I think I got a nice decent amount of compositions featuring trees, branches, moss, just all that kind of stuff you find out in nature. And at the very least, also got a nice hike in, and I highly recommend, if you're in the area, to check out this location. It's a very great one, and I imagine, especially during springtime, I imagine it would be great with the wildflowers here. I could imagine even trilliums being at this particular location. But yeah, I really liked it. Very rewarding, and just a nice place to have some peace and quiet at. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching, everyone. This has been Davey Woods State Nature Preserve. Until next time, make sure to get out here. Thank you.